Is the cup half full or is it half empty? It's the classic cliched experiment between optimism and negativity. Which one is the better way to look at it? Which will put you further ahead in life? But it is kind of worn down, so let me give you a different illustration to prove a point. At the beginning of the 1900s, there were two shoe salesmen, and they were commissioned to go to Africa, remote tribes out there, to gauge whether or not they could sell shoes out there. So after a couple of weeks, both of them telegraph a different message back to America. One of the shoe salesmen says, "This is a hopeless situation because nobody wears shoes out here. There's no market for it." And the other salesman telegraphs a completely different message. He telegraphs back, "This is a great situation because nobody wears shoes over here. So the market is wide open for us to come in and sell some shoes here in Africa." It's a funny situation because they were both looking at the same objective facts. There were no shoes, nobody wore them, but they interpreted them completely different. The Bible tells a very similar story, but its version is a little more serious than selling shoes or whether or not a cup is half full or not. In Numbers 13, the Hebrews had been led out of Egypt, out of captivity and slavery, and their number one priority is getting back to their promised land, into the land of Canaan. So they're being led by Moses, and the whole time they're having difficulties, and they're kind of finding their identity as a nation for the first time, really. But finally, in Numbers 13, they're at the edge of the promised land. All they have to do is walk in, and God says He's going to give it to them. So before they do that and just kind of waltz into this land, the story goes that they send out 12 spies, one from each tribe of Israel, to go out and look at the land. You know, what's going on there strategically, what's a good place to go and camp out, are there people living there, how's everything look? And as the story goes, 10 of them sent a bad report, and 2 of them sent a good positive report. I want to read this for you, Numbers 13, starting in verse 27. "And they told Moses, 'We came to the land which you sent us. It flows with milk and honey,'" which is a good thing, "'and this is its fruit. However, the people who dwell in the land are strong. The cities are fortified, very large. And besides, we saw the descendants of Enoch there. The Amalekites dwell in the land of Negeb, the Hittites, the Jebusites, the Amorites dwell in the hill country, and the Canaanites dwell by the sea along the Jordan.'" By the way, all those things are bad. They're saying there are people already there, they're established, we're not, they're big, we're small. And continuing here in verse 31. "Then the men who had gone up with him said, 'We are not able to go up against the people, for they are stronger than we are.' So they brought to the people of Israel a bad report of the land, saying that they had spied out, 'This land through which we have gone to spy it out is a land that devours its inhabitants, and the people that are in it are of great height.'" So negative, right? They see people are there. It's a hopeless situation because we can't overtake it. There's no way we can do that. Then you have a contrast in views based on the objective facts in verse 30. Look at what Caleb says. "But Caleb, one of the spies, quieted the people before Moses and said, 'Let's go up at once and let's occupy it, for we are able to overcome it.'" One thing I want to point out is the difference in the amount of talking that's going on. The negative people go and they just have a million things to say. Yeah, it's good, and there's some good things going on there, but it's hopeless. We can't do it, and here's a million reasons why we can't do it. The other positive side looks at the situation and says one sentence, "Let's go up right now and occupy it because we can definitely do it." And as the story goes, the negative people are so driven by this hopelessness, by their negativity, that they end up leading a rebellion. They stir seemingly all the people of Israel up into a flurry, and their plan, these negative people, get this, they want to go and kill Moses and Aaron, people who had brought them out of Egypt, out of captivity. They want to head back to Egypt and submit themselves again to the Egyptians as slaves, because at least we had meals there, at least we had homes there. Over here, we're just going to die out here in the middle of nowhere. So as the story goes, Numbers 14, before they go and they try and kill Moses and Aaron and the 2 faithful spies, God interjects and He steps in and says, "You know what? We're done with this. I tell you what, I'm going to destroy these people, and Moses, I'll make a new people out of you." But Moses says, "Don't destroy them because they're the people who you promised this land to. Is there some other way we can work this out?" So the plan that God creates is that they're all going to wander around in the middle of nowhere for 40 years until that unfaithful generation dies off. All that generation except for the 2 faithful spies who gave a good report. So after 40 years of everyone wandering around, they're finally able to enter in that land when, if they just trusted God before, they could have walked right in there as God asked them to, and that land could have been completely theirs. The reason I'm bringing up this subject and this story is that a lot of Christians you would think would be positive and they would take the story and learn from it. A lot of them are really, really negative. If you've been in church for a little bit, then you know what I'm talking about. How many sermons have you heard about the world just being awful and our situation being hopeless and no one wants to hear about Jesus anymore and no one cares about religion anymore, and you can go on and on and on. Again, I can't tell you how many people I've talked to who are faithful Christians who are just hopeless. They're burnt out and there's just no hope. So we might as well just throw up our hands and might as well retreat because nothing doing over here in this world. Let's just run out the clock, as it were, and wait till Jesus comes back. And it's really not a surprise when you think about our nature, because negativity sells. That's why if you turn on the news tonight, you're not going to hear a bunch of positivity like, local fireman saves puppy from tree, amazing puppy saved. You're going to hear about how the world's being ravaged by disease and hunger and things like that, which are bad. But let's go back to this idea, is the cup half full or is it half empty? Is the world bad right now? Yeah, it is. Are there situations that need to get fixed? Yeah, there are. Are people acting ideally, and are we all perfect and wholesome and amazing? No, we're really not. But as Christians, those who are called to a higher purpose, we get to decide how we interpret that information. We get to decide whether we're going to let that demotivate us or motivate us to move further with our lives and help people who are in those situations. So I want to ask you today, personally, whatever situation you're in, whether you're being affected by this isolation, whether you've lost a job, whether you've lost a loved one, you have the choice today to interpret that information the way you want to. Ask yourself, why has God brought me here? Is it to be destroyed? Is it to be torn down? Or is God trying to build me up and help me rise to this occasion?